Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Knife Chats with Tobias.
Thought I'd do something a little different today and just review a knife and not go into a lot of detail about it. I will have to say one thing to begin with, though. This is what Rough Ryder calls a double lockback, and it is based off of a knife that was developed by Case way back in the 1980s that they called the Lockhorn. Thank you, Stuart Harvey. We've had a long discussion about this because the first time I ran across this pattern of knife, or a knife similar to this, it was called a Longhorn by whoever was selling it. But Case actually came out with the pattern. I think it was something that they developed, and they called it the Lockhorn. On the box, they had a picture of a longhorn steer on it, and I guess that's why somebody later referred to the knife as a Longhorn, possibly because the other company's knife that I was seeing was not made by Case, and they might have been trying not to have an issue with a trademark, because Case actually did have a trademark on the name Lockhorn for a knife very similar to this. Now, one of the first knives I saw in this kind of pattern was also a Rough Ryder knife. This is a Rough Ryder in the Glow series. The first one I ever picked up was one in the A Stroke of Luck series. And this one, as you can see, is much smaller. This one is only 3 inches long, and this is closer in style to what Case did, in that both blades on either side, it's just a clip blade, and it was clip blades of equal size. I will talk about the Stroke of Luck double lockback in a future video, maybe when I show my other Stroke of Luck knives. But for now, let's just focus on the Glow knife and why I bought it. And also on why I almost didn't buy it, which is right here. The big R on the bolster, the Robert Townsend bolster. I went and bought it in spite of that, simply because of the glow-in-the-dark handles. And it was after I got it at home that I realized, man, I really should have looked closer at the description, because I might not have picked it up if I would have seen the pocket clip on the backside. Not a big fan of pocket clips, especially on traditional pattern knives. They just look awkward and out of place. And so there's a very good chance that I might end up removing this pocket clip and just deal with the two little holes in the backside there. Well, you do see it says Rough Ryder on there, and you've got a fairly strong pocket clip, I guess. Yeah, pretty decent, I guess. Do the old big red thing and see how much of the knife will stick out of your pocket if you use the pocket clip. So that's how much of the knife is going to stick out of there. So you definitely are not looking at a deep carry pocket clip, because we can see that almost an inch of a 4-inch knife is sticking out of your pocket if you're using that pocket clip. And it clearly says Rough Ryder on there. That doesn't mean anyone's going to know what it is, but just looking at it, you can tell that it is a knife in the pocket. But at the same time, with that much sticking out, you should be able to pull it out of your pocket with no problem. So if you're a pocket clip fan, the knife comes with a pretty nice pocket clip, I guess. Does have that big R, which I guess I will live with. I knew it was there to begin with. But I still went ahead and bought this knife, partly because it was an interesting pattern that I did not have. And when I first saw the shape of it, it's like, that looks different than the Stroke of Luck one, which looks more like a basic canoe shape. If you notice, it just got that dip in the middle. But this one has that swell in the middle, which was kind of cool looking. So I thought, well, you know what, I'll go ahead and get it. And then when it showed up, I realized, man, that is a big knife, because, well, you see right there, it comes in at 4 inches long closed. The other thing I noticed about the knife when I first saw it was the two blades are not exactly the same. Notice this is a spear blade, or what some people will call a drop point, and I guess this is really more of a drop point when you think about it, because of the way a spear blade, the two ends should come up and meet somewhere in the middle, and they should come up in about the same fashion. So the slope or the bend in the blade should be similar on both sides. So it should be like a mirror image of each side. With a drop point, the drop will drop, or well, the blade will start dropping before this side comes up. Now that changes a lot on a pocket knife, because one of the things you want to have is to make sure that the point is below the handle, and that's why you see a lot of spear blades on pocket knives that have the drop much lower than the center line. But in any case, I think I would call this one a drop point, and I think that's what they call it. And you heard right away that it has a good lock going on. And when it's locked, you've got a 4-inch handle on that blade. You do have a little bit of the blade here, the back side of the blade here, displaying, and you also have the clip there, which kind of bugs me a little bit. The blade not so much, but the clip does. But I think if you're right-handed, the clip may not be as problematic as it is for me. So I feel it in my right hand, the clip, but I'm going to be removing the clip anyway. I know that already, but which is good. You can remove the clip. Notice it's on there with T6 torque screws, so I will end up removing the clip. But you got a pretty decent blade there. 448 stainless steel. It's your typical Rough Rider, so for those who don't know. And then on the other side, you have a shorter blade, a secondary blade, which is more of a long Skinner blade or a long clip blade. And it's also a shorter blade, as you can see here. This one, about 2 1/8 inches long overall, with just under a 2-inch cutting edge there. And also, once again, it does not feel that bad in my hand, but again, the clip is annoying. That's really the only thing that annoys me on this knife is the clip. I don't like the way it looks, and I don't like the way it feels when I'm gripping the knife with any kind of tightness in my hand. Feels funny here too. So the clip is annoying. Oh, and this blade, the secondary blade, the lock is a little tighter than I wish it was. But, you know, also not a bad thing to have a strong lock. But if you have issues with a strong lock on a liner lock, maybe this one will break in over time, but it is a tight lock. Notice also there is no half stop, which really, it's a lockback knife. You don't need a liner, you don't need a half stop on a locking knife. I did not measure this blade before, but you can see here 2 3/4 inches long overall, with a cutting edge that is probably about 2 5/8 of an inch, or definitely over 2.5 inches. And this side lock is not nearly as tight. You do have the match striker pulls going on with both blades. This one is a little bit buried, but you can get to it easy enough. Wish a little more of the I wish it didn't drop in as far as it does, but I guess it needs to drop that far. Still, it's not hard to open up. It's interesting, as strong as the back lock is, getting the blade out is easy, even with half of the thumb match striker pull, half of the pull being buried underneath nail nick. That's what it's called. But the lock part is really hard closing. Getting it out is easier than closing. So you will find some very strong pulls on there. I got to do something right now though. Okay, this thing, like I said, is bugging me. As you see, all you need is a T6 torque bit. Got 2 screws on there. Let's see what happens. This is definitely on the way to the box. I don't want this thing on my knife. Now I know other people are really going to want that pocket clip, but to me the pocket clip destroys the lines of the knife, and also to me it just wasn't feeling as good in the box or in the hand. So but take and throw it in here in case I ever decide I want to get rid of it. Whoever gets the knife will get the clip. All right, it's already feeling better, so yeah, I tell you what, removing that makes this knife feel so much better in my hand. Yeah, everything feels better without the pocket clip. So really, the only thing I have an issue with on this knife is how strong the lock is on this smaller Skinner style blade. The lock is strong on the drop point, but not as strong. And I am hoping that that will break in a little bit. I do like the shape of the handle, the way it slopes up a little bit at the end here. You notice the bolster is slightly pinched, and I like the way it goes in there. And well, like I said, it is a glow-in-the-dark handle, and you see that it is in the Glow series. Rumor has it they're going to relaunch the Glow series. I hope when they do that, they're not all going to have the big R on it, because, well, what do I have? Oh, wait. I wouldn't know if this one had a big R on it or not. This is the only other knife I think I have in the Glow series, which is the little locking sod buster, which is a really nice little knife. But hopefully when they relaunch the series, they won't have the big R on there. I can live with this one being the only one with the big R, or only a few of them having the big R. But yeah, not a bad knife. And well, let's see, does it or does it not glow in the dark? Let's find out. Okay, I charged them a little bit under a fluorescent light, and I've turned off all of the lights except the one directly above the workbench. Let me turn that off, and we'll see just how well these two knives look. Okay, obviously this is right after charging the knives. You can actually see right here where my thumb was holding the little Sodbuster Junior. So I was holding it down here when I had it up in the light tube, so you get it nice and shiny. And you can see that it is definitely glowing. And well, here's the double lockback. And you can see that it definitely has some good glow going to it. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, well, leave the two knives down here in the dark for about 6 hours, and then I will check them again. Okay, what I did when I finished the last video is I took both knives and I put them in the glow box, and then I wrapped them up in these two cleaning cloths, the box, so that no light would get to them. And what my plan was is every 2 hours I would come down here, take them back out of the box, and video them. However, they're not glowing strong enough for the video portion of my iPhone to actually pick them up. They do have enough glow potential so that I can actually take photos of them. And so what I'm going to do is, well, first I'm going to turn off the light, and I'm going to take out the Sodbuster Junior, leave the double lockback in the box, and then close the box back up. And I'm going to go recharge the Sodbuster Junior, and then I'm going to take pictures of the two knives side by side so you can see how bright it was in the original glow portion under the with the Sodbuster Jr. versus 2 hours in with the double lockback. And then I will do that again in another 2 hours and then another 2 hours. And so you'll see at least a series of photographs showing how much of the glow potential is being lost over time. So let me get the lights off and get this going. Okay, so we're at the 4 hour mark now. I've recharged the sod buster for 10 seconds, and I'm going to take the other knife out of the box now. So let me turn off the light, and then I will take photos of the two knives, and then well, we'll discuss. And this is the 4 hour mark. Well, that was a bit of a problem because at 4 hours, the knives were no longer, I was unable to take a photo of the knives glowing, yet they were still glowing. So somewhere between 2 and 4 hours, they passed the point where the knife, I could no longer take a photo of the knife glowing. However, I could see them glowing with my own eyes. It's just the camera was not able to pick up on it. And they were still glowing, I thought, rather brightly. So what I did is I went ahead and grabbed my rescue tool by Victorinox, and also this other knife by Witchard. This is a nautical knife by Witchard, and this one is probably about 15 or 20 years old or so. And what I did is I ended up charging all of the knives that you see here for approximately 15 seconds in a glow tube so that they were lit all around. And then after being well charged, I took a photo of them in the dark, and then I proceeded to take a picture of them every half hour to watch as the luminous quality of them dropped off. This one dropped off relatively quickly, at least as far as my camera on my phone was concerned, but I could still see it with my naked eyes. And this one seemed to drop off fairly quickly too, and the two Rough Riders were holding up pretty strong right up until about 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and then once again I was no longer able to get a photo of them. With that said, I continued to look at the knives every hour or so for the next 10 hours with them being kept in a dark room. And basically all of these knives had some luminescent property all the way through 10 hours, with these three holding up very well and this one being very light. The Rough Riders were just as strong as the Victorinox rescue tool for a good 10 hours in darkness. I could see them once my eyes adjusted to the darkness, so it was fortunate that basically a good chunk of this was happening at night and I was unable to sleep. So basically I did not check it every hour, but I did check it at the 3 hour point, the 5 hour point, the 7 hour point, and the 10 hour point, and all three of these knives were glowing relatively brightly, as in I could see them from about 10 feet away. This one I could see from 10 feet away, but if I did not know where I was looking, I would not have been able to pick it up. I wouldn't have noticed it, other than the fact that I knew that's where it was at. So if it was one of those things where I needed to find it in the dark and I knew where it was at, I would have been able to find it fairly quickly. But if I had dropped it, I would have had to have been about 3 feet away from it. You know, my eyes would have needed to be about 3 feet away from it to actually see it. But all of these, the Rough Rider and the Victorinox rescue tool, I would have easily been able to spot from about 10 feet away. So the glow properties of these two knives is actually quite remarkable considering the price that you're paying for them. Same with the rescue tool. And with that said, let's move on to a slideshow on this knife here. This is actually the one that I was reviewing.
Let me take just a second to thank you once again for dropping by and spending a few minutes here at Knife Chats with Tobias. I really do appreciate it, and I do appreciate any comments that you leave. So please remember to give me that thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you'll know when the next episode is up and running. Thanks again for dropping by. Really do appreciate your time here.